Howdy, y'all, and welcome to Texas Watch. I'm your host, Projekt, and joining me, as always, is the Tracer main with the biggest brain, ZXO.
What up, man? Wow, the season's over. But man, what a grand finals we had.
Oh,
It was
man.
fun.
This is going to be our episode where we're going to take a second to kind of recap the grand finals and plus a little bit more. But until then, this is Texas Watch. You can catch the show live right here on YouTube at youtube.com/YS. You know what? It's in the description. If you are listening on podcast services, which you can get everywhere, by the way, you got an iPhone? Great. You got an Android device? Great. Are you somehow the type that hates all modern technology and still wants to use a flip phone? Great. You can get our MP3s on anchor.fm/Anthony Reese. So that's cool.
There you go. Easy enough.
Let's just jump straight into it. We
Let's do
had
it.
the Overwatch League Grand Finals this last weekend. It was the earliest Grand Finals I have ever gotten up
Man,
for.
I don't believe I had to watch it though. I had to watch it live. But you had to watch it live.
Oh
So I'm
my
like,
god.
fuck.
See, and it wasn't that bad for me because I typically get up at 6 every morning anyway.
Oh no,
But
I'm fortunate enough that I'm working from home. I'm able to get up around 9:30, 10 before my first and go to work. 6 a.m. To be 100% honest, Project, be real with you, I didn't sleep that night. I
That's
was
what
just
you
like,
gotta do, though,
this is
dude.
gonna be one of those nights because I know for one of the semifinal games was at 4 a.m. I think it was or something like
Yeah, it
that.
started at 4 and then like it went. I remember like I woke up one day and it was already halfway over, and I'm like, oh yeah, I woke up for the first game, and then it was already map 5 for the Shock Soul game, and I'm like, shit. But I caught the rest of it, and should we just run through the entire playoff bracket?
Yeah, and let's see how wrong we were because I got this completely wrong.
Yeah, I mean, this whole grand finals was it was something else. I'm really glad that we had it for sure, especially because it was the first. Fun fact: this is the first grand finals that we've had that didn't have a sweep.
Wait, the first one I know last year did, but the first year was a
The
sweep
first
too.
year was a sweep. Remember,
London swept. Who'd they sweep?
Philly.
Philly.
Yeah,
Oh, poor Philly, dude.
yeah, dude.
God.
They were the ones I wanted to take it all. If I'm being honest, I was expecting a Philly Shanghai final, but we'll get to that. Let me make sure we got this fixed up. Yep, cool. So let's check it out. The grand finals went like this. We had the first game in the quarterfinals, the Seoul Dynasty versus the San Francisco Shock, 2-3 Shock.
Game.
Like I just mentioned, I actually woke up late for this match, but I do remember as soon as I saw that score, I woke up at 2-2, and I'm like, holy shit, is this gonna like change everything? Just Zay, you're the Seoul fan. I want your opinion on this game.
Oh my God, man. So when we played this well against the Shock coming out, I knew, first of all, I knew all my picks were wrong. Because I was like, Seoul is going to go a lot farther than I initially predicted. Because what we got, and I'll elaborate a little bit more in the grand final. I mean, spoiler alert if you don't know already. Anyway, I won't say anything. Anyway, we'll get there. So, Profit and Gesture were playoff Profit and Gesture. Like that they came ready to play and carried this team. And then what I saw from Fitz against Ons, because what happened in this matchup is Shock went up 2-0, and then Dynasty came back to tie it up 2-2. And Fitz was beating Ons' ass at Widow. I'm just gonna go ahead and put it. I'm gonna say it because after those first two maps, man, I was like, Fitz dominating Ons on Widowmaker, and it changed the whole complexion of the game because it gave space for Profit, Jester with the big flanks going around and getting massive hooks with Roadhog. It was so fun to watch, man. This matchup
Go
was
ahead.
was awesome.
I'm pulling up the game 5 just because watching this, I was like, both of these teams are playing at their best right now, right? Like, I was not expecting Seoul to make it as far as they did, to be honest. I was expecting them to compete, but like this, like in this tournament format, you have the number 1 seed in NA going against the number 2 seed in Asia. and the inverse happening where the number one seed in Asia goes against the number two seed in NA. You would
Right.
think that the number one seeds in both of those games would just win handedly, but clearly that was not the case in this game.
Right, and that's the well, and in this game especially, the other game of this part of the bracket was not so evenly matched. Uh,
You don't
but this game
say.
was, yeah, this one was really fun to watch, and it's just crazy how it's a little bit of a precursor to what ends up happening maybe later on. I'll get to that when we get to talk about the final matchup, which I think was the best, obviously, game of the tournament. Was the final for once in the Overwatch League. They got it right.
Well, let's
So.
move forward and let's talk about this Philly Shanghai game where
Well, there's not much to talk about, but besides the fact that Philly, what the fuck?
I think that
That
here's my draw on this game, right?
yeah, please do, because I'm at a loss, man.
I think that Shanghai came into this game knowing exactly what they had to do. I like how it's on Busan for the last one and this one that I picked too. They knew what they had to do, and they showed that they were the number one seed in Asia. While, yeah, Philly has been great all season, Shanghai were on another level. Again, my final was predicted to be Philly Shanghai. I expected Shanghai to dominate the entire time. So seeing this was like, okay, oof. And I wanted Philly to go far. They've been number
But
one all season.
yeah, it's not just that they lost; it's how they lost. The Kings Row and Volskaya, they didn't cap first point.
Ooh, let me see if I can
That's that's yeah, that's just embarrassing. Like the fact that you had all this time to prepare,
Ooh,
you knew who you were playing. It took them about that. You had 3 weeks to prepare. How do you not? And those are both their map picks because obviously once you lose the first map, you pick the next one in this type of tournament format in the grand finals.
right.
And so they got to pick Kings Row and Volskaya and proceeded to not capture point A. Um, I mean, I'm kind of at a loss for words for what was really wrong. And usually I'm pretty decent about saying, okay, they're doing this wrong, they're doing this wrong. They're just getting outplayed. It's one of
That's
those
all it
games.
was.
If you've played comp before, you've all had those games where it's like someone's always dying. You're like, we're ready. Someone dies. You're like, why is someone always dying? That's literally how the fusion felt in this game. It felt like a ladder comp match. It did not look like a professional Overwatch League
Yeah.
match. That's how one-sided it was, in my opinion.
And
It
not just
sucked.
that, I did notice Shanghai's gameplay was near perfect. Like
True.
whenever they got that one pick, they would immediately dive on the rest of the team.
Yep.
It was like textbook Overwatch. Straight up, you get the one pick, go in, eliminate the rest of the team, and then go from there. And when your DPS, Fleta and DM both are actually hitting their shots, I think that's one
Yeah.
thing that's understated in a lot of Overwatch. Like some FPSs like Valorant, Counter Strike, Siege, where your aim is really important and every shot matters. In Overwatch, there's usually shots going all over the place, missing all the time. But when they're not missing,
They, whew. Uh, yeah, when they're not missing, that limited ammo becomes like, why are they always hitting me? I think you're on a good point there. Fleta and Diem showed why they're two of the best DPS in the league, and Fleta, the MVP, showed why he was in this game a lot of the time. I think this performance overall, I respect the fact that Shanghai Dragons are that good, but Philly, I'm more disappointed in Philly's performance in this. And I think they actually made a mistake to be honest. I think Carpe and Hisu with their double hit scan kind of composition, they had to switch off of it. I get Carpe is one of the best DPS players in the league. I've said it multiple times in the show. He's probably one of my favorite DPS outside of any Outlaws players.
one of the
But
OGs of
Carpe's,
Overwatch League too.
huh?
One of the
I'm sorry to
OGs of
hear.
Overwatch League too.
Yeah, one of the OGs of Overwatch League, exactly. So the fact that I can see why they put him in on every map, but when the double hit scan eventually stops working, man, you got to switch it up. You put in maybe Ivy. I'm not saying go as far as put in EQO or something like that, but something's got to change. And they ran the same thing on all three maps and got swept.
Yeah, I'm
I,
looking at their King's Row against Seoul right now, and it is just straight up Hisu and Ivy, Widow and Hanzo. Like they rang hard on this double sniper comp, and I think that that's might have what put them down a little bit. And
yeah, exactly.
if I can also make the comment too, I too feel bad for Philly fans. Not only is this the third year where y'all made it pretty far, but the way they lost in these grand finals, like again, I have the video pulled up, but here's what I want to look at: 3-0. That's not even putting up a. I don't want to say they didn't put up a fight, but when you can't win a game, that hurts.
Does, man. That's talk about. I can't imagine. Talk about tilt. That's a level of tilt I
Mm.
probably never experienced in my life. Can you imagine everything you've done for all these months? The travel, the work. I said work from home. The playing from home. Having to having to
Let's be
stop
honest.
playing.
Let's be honest. It is work for them. This is not just them
Yeah,
playing a game for fun.
right, right. All that work to then get 3-0'd. The first 3-0'd once. We'll get to our next matchup and we get to the losers bracket to talk about, what happened after that. But golly, Philly, man, I was rooting for you so much. Carpe doesn't deserve this. Free Carpe. Hashtag free Carpe.
I don't think that Philadelphia would let go of him too much. He's too marketable, and
Yeah.
well, actually, we haven't really talked about potential homestands. We'll save this for a topic for another episode because I
Mhm.
am genuinely curious to how these teams are going to go for the future. But let's bring this topic back on its own rails, which is rare for us on this show. Uh,
Well, it's still early.
let's talk about the quarterfinals. I'm just gonna breeze through this round because I don't want to say self-explanatory, but they were good games. We had Shock Shanghai, NA1 versus Asia 1. Shock actually won 3-2 in a game that looked like Shanghai was going to win it, but San
Yeah.
Francisco are San Francisco. I mean, if you're looking at the video, you can see Shock won. I don't think we need to hide it anymore. And in the other semifinal game, we had Shanghai and Seoul. And again, it was a close match. Well, this was semifinal losers bracket, right? This is where the game
Yes.
surprised me, though. Seoul actually beat Shanghai.
Yes, this was a game right here. This was the second best, in my opinion, game of the tournament. Uh, it was close, man. I did not know how this was going to end up going back and forth. Shanghai wins the first map, Seoul gets map 2, Shanghai gets map 3, Seoul gets map 4. You're just like, what is going on? Is someone going to be able to win 2 straight? And Seoul ends up winning 2 straight, wins Dorado and Oasis to go ahead and close out the Dragons. What a great series. This is
100%.
when, yeah, this is when everyone was scared, like, holy shit, Seoul Dynasty might be able to do this. Um, because obviously the Shock had beat the Dragons and sent them down to losers, but then Seoul showed about almost the same level of competence, if not more, than the Shock in how they beat the Dragons. So it was something going into the grand finals. Of course, Seoul was the underdog, but I gave him a good shot to beat the Shock after seeing they beat the Dragons like this.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think anyone who would have saw it on paper would have said, "Oh, the Dragons are going to beat Seoul, probably 3-1. No big deal, easy clap." But that's not the way it ended up, and it was a great series.
I would wholeheartedly agree with that. And then finally, we're going to take a look at the final game of the grand finals, which I do want to quickly say this grand finals was easily the best grand finals Overwatch League has put on.
I wish it wasn't at 6 a.m. so I'd be like super hyped. I was laying on my couch just like fuck. And then by the
But I
time like
gotta watch.
yeah, about like map 4 when the Soul had tied it up 2-2, I was like, let's go. I'm like, fuck, I'm hungry. I want to egg McMuffin.
Ain't
That
that
was
the
my
fucking mood? Oh my
yeah.
god.
That was literally my thought process. I was like, I can't get super crunk because I'm hungry. And it's 7:30 in the morning right now. Oh my god. But
So, go ahead, go ahead. I'll
but
let you take this one.
yeah, because this is why I want to bring up what I was talking about originally when the Soul and Shock played. Listen to this. The Seoul Dynasty won every single um, assault map and escort map in both games. The Shock won every control, hybrid, um, and control and hybrid. That's it.
Yeah, it was only 4 game modes.
Yeah. So they split the game modes. So the only reason, if you think about it, if you look at the final match, there were 2 control maps back to back. So it was control for map 5 and the Shock won, and then they won. Sorry, it was control on map 5, and then it was hybrid on map 6.
Which is
If
half control. Wait, no, wrong mode. Sorry. Take
no,
away my Overwatch
no,
card. No.
no. Hybrid. I think you're kind of right. Hybrid is half control because hybrid is the one where you capture the first point and
No,
then
no,
you
no. That's 2CP. Hybrid and 2CP are
No,
the same, right?
two CP's assault. Two CP's assault map. So assault and hybrid are close. Like hybrid has 1 capture point and assault has 2.
Right.
But which is crazy
But you were
because
saying control, right?
I said 2. I said there were 2 control maps at the end. There's actually was control and hybrid, and
Okay.
the shock won all the hybrids, and all the controls. The Soul
Huh.
Dynasty won all the escorts and all the assaults. So assault, escort, Soul, hybrid, control, shock.
That's actually a really good observation. Ooh,
If you
fuck.
look to
Sorry, I just
so
saw a good snipe by Fitz.
Fitz was popping off this game. Fitz, like, because Ons was hot. Ons was so hot and cold this game. Fitz was pretty consistent the whole time. But I think literally these teams were evenly matched.
Yep.
I think the Shock actually has lucked out that after Seoul lost map 5 in the final game, and had to pick another map, it had to be a hybrid map. And literally every hybrid map they've played across 2 matches, Shock have won. So Seoul could not beat the San Francisco Shock on hybrid maps.
So then
They
let me
couldn't.
ask you this. Do you think that they would have performed better if the modes were in a different order?
Yeah, I think exactly. I think if they got to choose an assault map for map 6, they literally beat the Shock on every single assault map. Then they would have taken it, or they would have tied it at 3-3, and we would have got a map 7, which they would have lost anyway because I think map 7 has to be control.
It does have to be
So
control.
so it was literally crazy. I was looking at this game. I was like, wait a minute. I can tell they're winning the same game mode types every time. So I thought that was really interesting, and I had to point that out that teams could be so good on certain game modes and then completely not good at the others. I mean, they're good overall, but they really have their strengths and then they have the weaknesses. And 2 great teams expose that in each other, which is outstanding. The grand final was just so awesome.
So good.
Profit,
So good.
if he should have, if Seoul Dynasty ended up winning, obviously Profit is the MVP of the finals. He once again was tearing up on his Hanzo, but then he kind of started falling off a bit. But his Pharah did enough, and Gesture did pretty well as well. Uh, Profit at one point was even carrying the team. I think it was King's Row where he just completely fucking popped. Oh no, it wasn't King's Row. The Shock won that 3-2. Hanamura with Hanzo, and then on defense he ran Pharah for point A. I think he tried his best to carry the team, tried to do the Profit deadlift, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough.
It wasn't
Uh,
enough, and the Shock did end up taking it for the 2nd year in a row.
mhm.
So, any Shock fans that are listening, congratulations. Y'all got the 2-peat. Y'all are still breaking records. Next year.
Yeah. Well, hey, guess what? Everybody's 0-0 again now, baby. We're all even.
And
We're all 0-0.
speaking of a Shock, I think this is actually a really good transition into our next little thing that we wanted to touch on. Today was a very important day for Overwatch League when it comes to rosters. There was a meme going around that Moth on the San Francisco Shock was going to have his contract released and he wasn't going to get it renewed. And he was like, nah, I don't want to play on Shock anymore. And obviously that was a joke.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to play on the team that I've won with for the past 2 years.
Right.
So,
Hey, but I tell you what, Overwatch League may be starting to experience what every league experiences. Once you've got 2 rings, I mean, if I was how old are these kids? 19, 20,
18, 19.
21?
I'd say like I think our oldest are like 27 in the league.
Man, hey, trying to make that money, man. I've got
Yep.
2 rings. What the fuck else do I need? I got 2 rings. I just need to get paid and start my own YouTube channel. I want to be that's it. And I could just get out of this league. I mean, maybe as someone who was not anymore 19, 20 years old, I'm thinking maybe more long term than they are. But that's what I would do. No offense, but
No, that
get
right
out.
there is actually a path that I think that a lot of the Shock players that maybe don't want to play into the season will go. Remember, the San Francisco Shock are owned by Energy. Like, that's a huge organization. Not just that, but like the Energy teams in Activision Blizzard's leagues, the Chicago Huntsmen for COD League, and of course San Francisco Shock. Huntsmen weren't any team to shake a nose at, while the Dallas Empire, shout out to my NB boys, did win the entire league. The Huntsmen were a pretty good team. NRG knows how to make esports teams, clearly, seeing as they've won twice in a row. But let me talk about, well, technically it was yesterday, but let me talk about what's going on. So on October 12th, teams were allowed to begin submitting player trades for league office review. That means that any player trades are subject to league office approval prior to becoming effective, and teams may also begin extending or otherwise signing their current players to standard contracts. That also means a bit of the opposite too, and when we look at some of the players who are now retiring or leaving. Bringing this home to our home topic of Houston Outlaws Dallas Fuel, we already know that Unko is not returning next year, even though he played maybe one game all season. Technically, he retired on October 6th, but that was when the league was already over. So
Yeah, and that's just when he had to officially say it. But we knew he was on his way out the door.
right. But this is a question that I want to talk about for our boys, right? And we'll start with the Outlaws because that's just how we do things here. Who do you want to see dropped? Who do you want to see renewed? Go for it.
Well, I talked about this many a times, and I'm gonna have to come in hot, like I do every time. Boys need some help. The way I see it, the only untouchable players are Dante.
Would you say
I don't mean to be.
hydration? Maybe
I,
Jexay?
Hydration was my second choice, probably over Jexay and Repel. And I say that because hydration is so flexible in what he's been able to do. He was pretty good maintaining. He's still a great projectile DPS player. So I think there's room for him there for sure. I want to keep Repel and Jexay. I think they're an average support duo, maybe a little above average. But the tank line, we got a Meko. I hope that. I mean, to me, you look washed.
I was gonna
Last year,
say washed.
you look washed. You look like you tried your best to protect hydration. When Muma was in, I guess of course you tried your best too, but you weren't the impactful off tank player that you were with the New York Excelsior. I don't know if it was comms. I don't know if it was something with coaching. I don't think so because I think I really like our coaching staff still. But he looked a little washed last year. So Meko, I'd be okay letting go with. Maybe we get some good value out of him. Maybe we bring in another off tank who's a little more on the up and coming. Because Meko's been in the league quite a while now. Muma, we love you, dude, but it's about that time, man.
I'm pretty sure he knows it himself. I've seen him interacting more with the Overwatch community just as Muma, not necessarily as Houston Outlaws. And while I'll take that back. I remember that the Outlaws were doing something on Twitch for like a charity for a while, and they had a couple of players streaming, and they had some streamers, I guess. I'm already hitting that video game boomer status where I'm like, I don't know who's popular. I just
Is Ninja still popular? Is he new?
What's that guy, Tifu? Yeah.
Tifu, yeah. And there's that one new brand. I think it's called 100T. I think
Thieves,
they are.
Thieves.
I said T. What T? Thieves? That's what the T stands for. Oh, okay. I knew that. Yeah. We don't want to bring up our gamer boomer status at all.
Oof, I'm already accepting it, dude. It's okay. It's okay. But you know what? Like, I think it's unfortunate that we're looking at such a necessary change for both of our teams, right? Bringing
Yeah.
us over to the Dallas camp. Keep Doha.
But look, I think look at the grand finals, dude. Look at the grand finals. Shanghai, Seoul, Shock, um, and Philly. But Philly got 3-0 twice, and everyone else has an all Korean roster. Everyone else. I will give you credit for the Shock has Super and Moth,
But
who they rotate in. Everyone else is Korean. You gotta go all Korean, dude.
I don't I don't want to say that. I still like mixed rosters.
I
I
do
think
too, but they
I
don't win. The Fusions were the best mixed roster in the league, and they got
They
fucking
really
destroyed.
were. They really, holy shit. Now, you're right. They were number one as a mixed roster, and then we come around and they got 3-0
They got
twice.
they got 3-0 twice when all the chips were on the table, and the all Korean teams were like, okay, time to play for real, and they
So,
just got blown out the water.
thinking about, like, Dallas, right? I say keep Doha because the kid clearly has potential. He has a lot of talent, but he needs surrounding players to help him out. I think that one of our struggles was he didn't have enough. I don't know if local talent is the right word to use, but I feel like we would need more Korean players than we had to be able to allow Doha to properly communicate and be the kind of player that he wants to be.
I want to make clear that when I say Korean players, I'm not saying that just for people watching on YouTube or the podcast. That's because they are Korean, they're better. No, I'm saying that in Korea, their ladder competition and the skill level is just so much better. If you want to get a basketball team, you come to America and you get all the Americans because we're the best basketball players in the world. We have
I
the highest level of competition. Korea has the best gamers in the world, and their level of competition is just way better. So you having a mostly Korean roster, all Korean roster, gives you an advantage, and that's nothing to do with where they are. It's just the culture and what they play there and what they do, which makes them the best.
and let me
So it's
jump
not
in.
inherently because they're Korean; it's just because of what they do over there.
Of course. No, you're good, man.
Yeah,
I do want to bring to attention though the popularity of Overwatch over there as well. In a
yeah.
lot of like, I saw this statistic recently, or it was more like what do you call those things with the numbers and the pictures? Infographics. Cool.
What do you wait, time out? What do you call those things? The numbers in the picture?
You know what? I got there.
Yeah,
Okay,
you
I
did. You
got there.
did. I'm glad you did because I was worried about you for a second.
I saw an infograph once that had data about all of the most popular esports in various countries, right? In South Korea, I think Overwatch was number three or five.
Wow.
So it being pretty high up there. Around the rest of the world, Overwatch wasn't even in the top five for a lot of
Wow.
countries. It was in China
Interesting.
and South Korea. America, I think Overwatch was like fifth. I want to say. I wish I had that chart to look it up now. But the point that I'm trying to drive to is a lot of the best players come from the places where they play Overwatch the most. I have noticed in my 4 years. Holy shit! Has it been 4 years or 5 years? No,
And
it's 4 years.
4 years.
4 years that I've been playing this damn game, and I've encountered people in public that play this game. I feel like a large chunk of them are console players. Uh,
Yeah, it's in America for sure.
and not just that, but console players that don't pay attention to Overwatch League. Uh, I don't know why, and it's something that Activision Blizzard is actually trying really hard to figure out too. Even with like when you play Overwatch, there's the Overwatch League button straight there on the home menu. When games are live, there's the big ass red live button right there. I think partially it's just due to interest, I guess, and
Yeah,
I want to save
I
this as
would
a
agree.
topic for another episode.
Yeah, the Overwatch League. That maybe something in the future. We have a whole topic on the future of Overwatch League or Overwatch League around the world
For
kind of
sure.
topic. So
Uh, let
It's an
me
interesting one. It's a very interesting topic.
let me bring it back to the point that I was trying to say before I derailed myself, as one does.
I
Uh,
told you it was early. We were gonna do it.
we were gonna do it. I want to see changes on Dallas, right? Our tank line. I love Gomsu and Note. I have actively said that time and time again. We need fresh blood. We need fresh blood. I think that having a serviceable tank line is good. We need an outstanding tank line. We
Yeah.
need players who are not only confident but can and will pop off. And again, I'm not saying that Gamsu and Note don't do that. They had both plenty of amazing plays. Gamsu had some of the best shatters in the league, I think. I don't know if you remember. I think it was against
Oh,
the
I
Valiant.
remember. I remember. Oh, see, when Gapsu wants to flex, he flexes hard.
Oh yeah.
Like
Oh
he
yeah.
he will. He's like, dude, I'm one of the most experienced main tanks in the league. You're not gonna shatter me. I shatter you. I invented the flank shatter. Like I was there
Yeah, dude.
when the flank shatter just got started. So when he wants to turn up, he can do it.
I'm just worried that with esports being a young man's game, every year you take with an experienced player, that's a slot that could go to a rookie who's been
Yeah.
grinding for the last, like, that's the thing, like, because contender starts at 16, that means that players who genuinely want this can start grinding when they're maybe 14, 15. Wow, this Overwatch game is really cool. Holy shit, I'm kind of good at it. Oh, okay, maybe let's go to contenders. Be there for a couple of years, pop off on your second year, get signed by an Overwatch League team. Like, that's the dream right there. And every year, there's going to be more and more 18-year-olds in that position.
Yep. Exactly.
So,
And that's what keeps the content coming in. That's what keeps the juices flowing in
yep.
the game. And that's what's great about what Blizzard is doing, which they've really taken from well, I don't want to say riot. I would say it's more, yeah, no, the riot kind of philosophy and stuff is once you got to get the kids involved in the young people in there. That keeps the game going and keeps fresh talent coming in. And yeah, I think especially in the case of Gamsu, a veteran like that, you could probably a younger person who's maybe a little worse, not by much, for a lot cheaper, which can
Mm-hmm.
help you sign bigger stars.
I mean, look at the Valiant this year. They signed, wasn't it the cheapest roster? And
Yep.
I do miss McGravy. I really wish Dallas had have actually signed him, but I know why they didn't. And it's because we had Note.
Mm-hmm.
But damn,
If
damn.
only.
Did you actually see he got the Dennis Velko award?
I
I'm
did
pretty
not.
happy about that. Yeah, I saw it coming. I've loved McGravy since he was on Team Envy, since he played very briefly for the Mayhem.
Yeah.
He's a talented dude, and I'm very happy that he's gotten as far as he has in the league. But with that being said, let's you know what? Let's call the episode here. I I am really excited for this postseason. We are
Yes.
gonna see some interesting stuff with this league because this is the first year that we've had to not only, well, let me rephrase that. This is the first off season where we have to start taking a look at homestands versus continuing to stay online. How are they going to do activations around their respective cities? How do you get that city more involved? I guess it's still an activation. And that's something that we're going to talk about in a future episode. But until then, this has been Texas Watch. You can catch the show right here on YouTube. We don't have a URL yet, but if you're watching us on YouTube, please do me a favor, click that subscribe button somewhere over there, down there, maybe that like button right next to it too. I'm gonna get good at like pointing to it at some day. You know, it's
Yeah,
like
and like
boom,
bling.
right there.
Yeah.
Also, if you are listening to us on podcast services, please give us a subscribe there. Maybe leave us a review. Let us know what you think of the show. We're trying this new format just because, again, it's the off season. It's kind of hard to talk about each team's actions when they literally do maybe one thing a couple of weeks. So we're gonna start just flexing our Overwatch brains, I guess.
Yeah, and who knows? There's bound to be at least one big splash out of nowhere. Somebody's gonna go somewhere that we're not expecting. Um, I'm waiting for that moment. We'll have all kinds of analysis and opinions about what we think about the move. You know it's
Of
coming.
course. Oh, we know it's coming. But until then, let's make Texas proud.
Yeehaw!